Mr Deputy Speaker, it's a great pleasure to follow the member for West Dorset, who focused very much on air quality. It's very much what I would want to focus on today, and I agree with everything he said about that. And I also agree with him that he said that we should leave the environment in a better condition than we found it. And I fear that in current form the Environment Bill does not deliver that mandate which I share. And certainly the bigger mandate, which is about delivering zero carbon, which is the 2050 target that we've got, this particular bill won't deliver that either. It is the case, as the Minister will know, the latest projections show that we'll meet the 1.5 degrees increase, not by 2040 but by 2030, and we really do need to up our game. But what this Environment Bill is possibly capable of doing is to deliver environmental protection as opposed to climate change mitigation in terms of air, chemicals, plastics and our oceans. But the problem here is that, at least as it's drafted at the moment, it hasn't got the teeth to deliver enforceable known targets to ensure we deliver those higher standards. And certainly as we leave the EU, the real risk is that because we haven't got dynamic alignment, that we will actually fall behind the escalating standards in the EU and possibly even fall behind the current standards. On air quality, the Minister will know we consistently, the Minister will know we consistently fail to meet the EU air quality standards, and that's why the government's been taken to court on a number of occasions by Climate Earth and fined, and rightly so. And we need a system that can duplicate that, and that system does not exist. I will take the intervention.
Giving way. The thing that baffles me is why members on the other side think that this country is incapable of setting high standards itself without having an international body do it for us. If we all collectively across this House believe in high environmental standards, why can't we look after our own interests rather than somebody else do it for us?
Well, I think that was very much an own goal by the former Transport Minister who cancelled the electrification to Swansea and knows, in terms of reliability of the UK to meet standards, we've consistently failed. The empirical evidence shows that we haven't and can't do it with this government because we've been dragged into court, kicking and screaming, failing those standards. And that's why we've got this, and that's why we've got this Environment Bill that waters down these standards, does not provide an independent agency, does not provide an opportunity for fines to be paid, for the failure to deliver World Health Organization standards to be paid, in my view, should be paid to the health service and to local authorities to treat people for the harm and to actually reduce air pollution. I will give way.
Lionel Fred is making a very good speech, but would he agree with me? What is really worrying about is this lack of ambition of this government. We can only save the planet by international cooperation. We can only save this planet if we stop their friends who invest in the rainforest and back the companies that are exploiting the rainforest. If we do that in a coordinated a way across this planet, this is a lack of ambition, a lack of imagination and a lack of energy. Would you agree with me?
Precisely. And if we don't have our opportunity for the United Kingdom is COP26, to show that we will act collectively, we will take leadership, we will bring the world together. But what are we doing? The example we're setting is that we've got 62,000 people dying prematurely in this country at a cost of $20 billion a year from air pollution. And it might be heart failure, it might be lung failure, it might be children with lower IQ, it's unborn babies with microparticulates, PM2.5, going through the bloodstream, going into unborn babies. And that's why we want these World Health Organization standards that were mentioned by the previous speaker, namely 10 micrograms per cubic metre by 2030, with a staging post of 12 by 2025, in the bill, on the face of the bill, enforced through fines. Otherwise, it simply won't happen. And we know what the manufacturers will do with their weasel words. We know about the VW scandal, and the latest scandal, of course, is the fact that diesel filters themselves, actually every 300 kilometres, every 300 miles, rather, Mr Deputy Speaker, they store up particulates, they crush them into micro particulates, more harmful particulates, and they spew them out every 300 miles and cause much worse pollution and public health problems. And when they spew them out, that isn't actually measured in the emissions testing regime because the manufacturers have been behind the door lobbying away. So we can't trust them, and we want to bring forward to 2030 the year when new diesel, new fossil fuel cars are illegal. And as has been mentioned, we need a fiscal strategy to deliver this. Moving on, so obviously I want those changes. The other change I really want to push for is to have indoor air pollution in the Environment Bill. I mean, no one in their right mind really would believe that we could have an Environment Bill that's just about the outdoor environment, when 90% of our time and 95% of our children's time is spent indoors. What's happening to those children indoors? Well, I recommend members read the Royal College of Paediatrics and Children's report on this, on indoor air quality, that was only just published on the 28th of January, which shows there's an abundance of harmful chemicals, whether they're to clean our cells, our products, or in construction, or volatile organic compounds, formaldehyde, cleaning cosmetic, candles, cooking, all sorts of stuff that actually have a cocktail impact in causing inflammatory respiratory problems. And we're all locked in these small flats with double glazing that makes this thing worse. And that's also the case, of course, in schools and hospitals. This bill should apply indoors, minimally, to schools and hospitals to protect our children, but it simply doesn't. And what's more, in the case of fire retardants, which is a specific problem, I understand now, the average person in Britain, the average household, has got 45 kilos of fire retardant in their houses, in the foam, in their sofas, in their mattresses. We've got much, much more in the EU or the US. Why is that? Because we require a flame test rather than just a smoulder test. And what literally happens is when there is fires, what people die of is the toxicity of the fumes from the fire retardants that are given off. That are worse than the concentration camps in the Second World War, because the combination of the hydrogen cyanide, which is the one they use in the concentration camps in Cyclone B, and carbon monoxide, which makes it 35 times worse. So you get this sort of so-called polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons burning off. You cannot see, if you're a firefighter, you cannot see through the smoke, and people basically choke and die within a few breaths. It is outrageous that should be allowed. And we've seen in New Zealand that if you take these chemicals out, we don't have more deaths from fire. Again, in this bill, we need to continue with REACH. The chemical protection, REACH in a nutshell, means, Mr Deputy Speaker, that if you produce a chemical, you're a manufacturer, you are required to show that that is safe. In the United States, if you produce a chemical, the Environment Protection Agency has to prove it's hazardous. And that's why they sell asbestos in brake pads in the United States. Now, once we go into a trade deal, the big problem with this Environment Bill, it leaves the door open for Donald Trump and his mates to water down our environmental standards. I know we've all heard about chlorine, chicken, hormone-impregnated beef, but also on chemicals, so they can sell all sorts of stuff that risk our public health if it goes ahead. We need to tighten this up. We need to have a precaution principle. We need to ensure we do deliver on REACH. In terms of plastics, again, people will know there's 1 million birds dying. There'll be as much plastic as fish in the sea by 2050, 100,000 mammals. We need to have a fiscal strategy as well. We need to tax plastic. A previous, the last Chancellor but one said there was going to be a plastics tax. Where is it? Are you calling for it? Let's have it. We need a plastics tax. And then our trade, we need to watch out on the investor-state dispute settlements, where companies will come along and they will agree a trade system, and if we start passing new environmental laws, they'll sue us under the investor-state dispute system. So it's important at this point, before we agree those trade deals, that we have our legislation in place rather than put it after the trade deal, because we'll face all sorts of sanctions. And then finally, obviously, as has been said, and I agree with what's said by the chair of the DEFRA committee on the integrated approach with the 3 bills to combat flooding using land use management, etc., and also in particular being from Swansea Swansea, I'm concerned that the blue beach registration is kept up, so people have confidence in terms of tourism and the economy, that when they go bathing, everything's clean. Our environment isn't just about a namby-pamby thing, or let's look after the environment. Our environment, obviously, is for our children, your children's children, but it's also for our economy. We want to be able to boast we set the standards and the markets follow. People want to come here because we've got a glorious and enhanced environment. And in the current state of play, this environment bill won't deliver the goods, and I very much hope that the ministers will be open to the amendments my right honourable friends and myself will want to put to make it better and make it fit for purpose. Thank you very much.
Miller.